Good morning. Hey, it's midsummer, well, late summer, piddling down as usual. I've got Stephen's tailor here, and interestingly, from my perspective, this tailor has already been adjusted. Just going to take a some very old strings from these are from Mark's Tanglewood, I think. Okay, well, they're very old and I'm not tuning them exactly, but the point is, what I've done with this guitar is I've shimmed it shimmed the neck and got an action now of I would say just under 2mm, which is pretty nice. Hello Morris, say hello. Hello. Yeah, you're wet, aren't you, because you've been out in this beautiful summer's day. How you doing, mate? You're alright? Yeah? He's still the character he ever was, aren't you? Yeah, so this is shimmed a tiny bit, so I've got a, I can't remember what I've got in there now, 0.6, it's 0.7mm shim here, which lifts the end of the guitar up slightly. I've mentioned on several posts about this that in a way the options on this guitar are limited. It's a simple arrangement, meaning there's only one space for shims here because of the construction. It doesn't have a two-point connection here. It just has this one bolt straight onto it. So you either create a wedge for shimming it, or, well, three things I guess. You create a wedge to shim it, which I suppose is an ideal situation. The second option is you shave down the heel a little bit, very exactly. Second option, which again is, I suppose, technically good because it retains a sort of wood-to-wood contact. Or the third one is, which I've done, is less ideal. Is you use a simple shim at one end, and that gives you a little lift, but it's a solid fix, a solid connection, but it's not. There's a little air gap in there somewhere. So. Some people would argue that's not so good for tone. I don't think it's a problem, providing this is a solid fix. The tone doesn't get lost in that air gap. The tone gets lost if this isn't solid, and if it vibrates, or your sustain will get lost. Obviously, what this needs, the strings here need to do is translate through the bridge into vibrations into this top, and through back out through the sound hole. So I think the kind of fixing of the neck is less to do, or the shimming of the neck has a lot less to do with it than the solidity of the neck joint and the fact that it's fixed tightly. Anyway, the reason I opted for that method is because simply because making a shim that is 0.3mm tall at one end, I mean, you can't eat wire, Morris, it's not good for you. 0.3mm tall at one end, and 0mm tall, like coming down to 0 at the other end, is incredibly difficult. And I would, especially, you can try it, but 0.6, let's say we call it 0.6mm. That's just over 0.5 mm thick. Now, if you can find me some, I can make you a piece of. Take your feet off there. I can make you a piece of I can sand you down eventually a piece of timber that's 0.5 mm thick. No, what? Don't put your nose on there. But I can't get you on this 0.5 mm thick, precisely 0 at the other. It's just impossible with manual tools. You need a computer-generated solution, or you'd need something. Yeah, you'd need machine tools of some kind. Right, Morris, can you come down so I can do this next bit? Thank you, sir. There's your nice stool for you. Lovely. I've got a small vole in a cage over there, which is one of Morris's friends, which I've got to get rid of. Okay, so this I'm ready to basically restring this guitar now, and it's a kind of grubby old thing, but I don't want to work away at this and take away all its sort of. There'd be a lot of hard work to get all the patina of age off this, and I'm not sure it would shine up as well. I mean, it would certainly, you could do it and then give it actually would benefit from a sort of 1/over spray with a matte varnish, but I'm not going to do it. That's not really on the cards for this. I think what's on the cards is I've cleaned the fingerboard so it has a lot less gunk on it. One of the things about this that I had to make a call on or a decision on yesterday, and a couple of little things I noticed. One is that the bridge is just slightly smaller than the slot, so it can move side to side, so you've got a bit of positioning. I noticed originally that the string spacing on this guitar is very, very close to the edge, and that's due to the kind of the chosen points on the bridge here, sorry, on the saddle. And actually, because there's about 1 millimetre or 2 even either side, you can push it side to side if you want to realign the strings. As it is, they're pretty much where they should be right now. The other thing to note on this guitar is there is some play wear, some grooving down at this end. But again, these were never very tall frets in the first place on the Martins, the Taylors, and I'm hesitant to get into fret leveling this. Now I would do if the guitar was struggling to play it at the new action that I'd chosen it, which it isn't. It's quite happy. So I'm not. There isn't a need to level the frets from that perspective. The only reason for doing a fret dress is to try and remove the wear. But if you think about the trade-off, you'd be losing a bit of cosmetic wear, or a bit of wear on these frets here, for a loss of fret height everywhere else. And on a guitar like this, and actually not just on a guitar like this, on any guitar, I don't personally think the cosmetic fret wear is enough of a reason to take away fret life from the rest of the frets. Unless somebody specifically requests it and they really want that done, that's fine. I mean, it's the customer is entitled to pay for what they want. But as a judgment call, it's not something I would recommend doing, unless and until the wear or the grooves or whatever are actually having a definite effect on how the guitar plays, and I can't see that it is. Having played this, I don't detect there's any sort of negative impact of it. So I'm not going to do it on this guitar. What as part of the judgment call, Stephen gave me this guitar, basically saying that it's his favourite, pretty much one of his favourite old guitars. Been around the world with him. He's had it pretty much since the Babies first came out back in about 2002, something like that. So it's it's 15 years old. Nothing done to it, and you can see that's true. It's got the only thing it's had done to it is had a piezo fitted under here. Now I don't even see there's any preamp actually on board this thing, so I have a feeling it has to go. Presumably, it has to go to an outboard preamp to play. But anyway, so what we've got is a 15-year-old guitar in pretty much used, world travel condition, and the request is just to kind of check it over, do what I can to it to make it play as good as it can. So obviously the first thing is, yes, we're going to restring it, we're going to clean up the fingerboard, I'm going to move the just reset the action a little bit because it was getting high. Now what I've got here on the back of here, actually I might just take a bit more time with this. We've got some real grease built up on the back of here, and it actually does feel quite horrible to touch. I mean, it's sticky to touch, so I might just put a bit. I'm not going to bother about it here. Sort of in a way, the grease and goo on the body, the travel residue on the body, sort of protects it a bit, really, because the lacquer wears off this quite easily. But these guitars have been what appears to be in quite smoky conditions for quite a long time. You can see that. That's quite a lot of goo. So I just want to try and get some of that off. so that it doesn't basically stick to the hand, but I'm not going to get too much of it off. Actually, what we've got down here is this, looking at this, yeah, it's just got this kind of complete layer. I don't know whether the damp or something over time has kind of worn the lacquer off here, but the part of the shine here is this build-up of, I suppose, hand oils or something. It's a little bit sticky-fied, which is not that pleasant. So just going to take a bit of it off if I can. You can see it's quite yellowed. I mean, you know, if this was a sort of longer term thing, then I would be tempted to just basically buff all of this back a little bit and give it a very light spray over with some fresh lacquer. Okay, again, that's fine. I'm going to leave most of this goo on there. I think the thing with this guitar and its wear, I would suggest just playing it until the wear it prevents it being played anymore, and then I would bring it back sometime for a refret, and then at the point of refret consider sort of just sanding up all of these surfaces to give them a kind of clean up or a fresh dust of matte lacquer. Yeah, you can really see this is sort of, there's something about this finish that's just, I don't know if it's the damp that's done it, but it's a combination of goo or something. Either the original matte has got a layer of grease on it which has built up and become slightly sticky, or over the years the actual lacquer itself used has become kind of sticky and coming off. So either which way, it's not the material it once was. It's not a very nice substance. It could do with being refreshed, but it is very old by guitar terms. Anyway, so you can see that, you can actually see the difference here. This is kind of cleaner. This is got this down here has got more of the whatever that, and maybe it's the original lacquer plus grease or something, but it's a stickier, and you could just keep rubbing it off, but then you get back to this finish here, which is actually the original matte. Amazingly, the original matte finish. It feels like the original matte finish minus. Oh yikes! You can just literally rub it off with your hand. It's not that nice. So it's yeah, it's amazing how much build up of stuff. I would err on the side of build up of stuff on this. At the same time, it actually does feel like the original lacquer has worn out and become sticky or something. Same, so it's across the whole thing. It's not just on the neck. Yeah, maybe you know, that's a job for when it's time to refresh it and do a whole complete sort of refresh on it. But I'm comfortable trying to take any more off, because we will go back to a sort of whatever there is below this grease. I mean, you know, you can sort of rub it off there, and who knows what else is coming off. Like I say, I don't know whether the actual lacquer is broken down. But anyway, it's completely doable. A light sanding, a light keying over all this, like I did with Stephen's SX, and this would come up nicely. But like I say, you dig your fingernail on any of this, and it just wants to come off, which makes me feel a bit. Anyway, we're not going to go to that extent this time. I'm going to put some nice new springs on and then get it back in its case, or get it tuned up and stretched up. Back in its case, so it's going to look very much like it did before. It's sort of a relatively quick setup without any major surgery on it. just a small tweak in the action to make it more playable, and a little bit of a tweak on the saddle as well. Once the neck had come up, it needed to just come down very fractionally on the saddle. And if we were going to, let's say, refret it, I would do the whole hog, I'd refret it, sand the whole lot down, respray the body, and also at the same time I would put a new nut on. It's tricky, you want to sort of want it and don't want to go in properly. That's it. Yeah, put a new nut on, and I'd put a new saddle on as well, because all the geometry would change anyway, so it would be time to kind of readjust that. But this is a sort of a short-term refresh with an improved playing action. That's better. The secret of acoustic guitar strings is that they don't sit. The ball doesn't sit all the way down at the end of the string. It ends up sitting about halfway down. And you have to sort of find that point before you commit. There you go. Before you commit to locking it in place. Otherwise, you get a massive bang later on, usually, and the ball end shoots up into its preferred place, which is halfway up, and you get a kink right in the middle of your string, which you can do without. Well, not in the middle, at the beginning of your string, which you can certainly do without. Okay, so beautiful new strings. These are slightly lighter gauge than they were originally on the guitar, so I've just got a custom set here. Hopefully you get a nice tone. Also, because they're slightly lighter, I've made a tiny adjustment to the relief in the neck as well, which it was very, very, very flat before, so just a little bit of curvature back with this loading. Anyway. Funny, I've learned along the way that some people really don't like new strings and prefer old things that are worn in with finger oils and stuff. It's funny that. I'm a fan of the fresh new string with all its tonal range, but it's not to everyone's taste. Some people prefer the deader range of used strings. Okay. The other thing is, between now and possibly refretting this guitar when it gets older, at a time for a sort of full servicey type thing, could investigate whether it's possible to get a factory built shim for these from Taylor themselves. I know what the size is that I would be looking for, or I know the range or the approximate size of the shim that would suit this, so kind of working, obviously you work within a range of things. It's not absolutely precise. If you go a little over what it's currently shimmed with, then you bring your saddle down a little bit. If it's under, you need a slightly taller saddle, but if you're changing all those things at once, you've got the freedom to get it all right in one go, get it set right in one shot. So in a way, contrary to what you'd imagine, you don't have to be precise to the 100th of a millimetre when it comes to the shimming. You can be within a range that works for what you're aiming to do. I can't believe the summer we're having. It's just wet letdown, I'm afraid. But I don't know why I keep being surprised at the British summer. I've been here long enough. I always think it's the fact that I was born in the sunny Caribbean accounts for my obsession with blue skies and green trees, but I think that's kind of fairly universal for a lot of people. I don't think I'm unusual in that. Just check everything in its alignments. Goodbye. I don't want to take this shrew fold. Oh, there you go. See, that's what I didn't want to happen, but it did happen anyway. It's just popped up a bit from its seating. So there's going to be a bit of stretching needed to get this to stay, the tuning to stay stable. It's amazing what I could see that. Sorry about this, but I can see the grease layers on there. The whole guitar feels sticky. Sorry, Stephen. Didn't mean that. Don't mean that as an insult. It's just I think it's probably worth considering addressing that later on at a more dramatic rebuild or refresh, refret. A little bit of ping on the G slot, worth looking at. Last tuning, and I'll put it in the bag for a bit. Take it indoors. Oh well, I checked the first fret action as well. sit down, stay down, right? Yep, all good. Sticky. Yeah, but just check these first fret actions. I mean, visually they're pretty good actually. There should be no issues there, pretty low. What I'm probably more likely to do is just to make an adjustment to the width. I don't know how well you can see this, but typically on a guitar like this is as factory fitted. You can see the slots here are pretty deep and they're almost guaranteed to pinch the strings. That's the first thing. So it would be more helpful in many ways if these things were in fact if they started life as V slots to some degree. And you know, I know people get funny about the look of that, but the point is, what you want more than anything is a slot that doesn't pinch the strings, and that's really all you care about. What it looks like is kind of secondary to how it functions, because yeah, simple as that. The function is what matters. So in this case, I'm going to just do a little bit of widening of the G. Everything else isn't binding or pinching, but I've got a bit of the G here is slightly tight. So a simple way around it is to get your sandpaper now. What you're listening for when you're tuning obviously is any pinging. You want the strings to tune smoothly with no pings from the nut. That's a nice tweak, sort of mid-term tweak on this guitar. Restored a bit of a nicer playing action, tiny tweak to the neck set thanks to the unique Taylor Baby bolt-on neck arrangement. It makes it very easy to do that. Future reference, this could do with a gentle sanding down, clean up and sanding down to get all of this sort of 15 more years of travel and back of the camper van goo off it. No offense, Stephen, sorry. But it feels like it needs a freshen up. And actually, you can see on the back here that if you rub too hard, this greasy layer comes off. It leaves you with what I think is closer to the original lacquer finish, actually, which has got a much drier touch. But the problem is, I don't want to go and strip the whole lot off because it just will be so much different from the original, although the truth is it would be far less tacky than it currently is. But there we go, you got a strange mixture of surfaces. Got a lovely tone. Tug and then get one more final tuning off it. Always being a little bit careful with that top E because I can't afford a new pack of strings, which I don't have. New packet of strings just for a missing top E on this set. Seem to be pinging at that end. Ugh. say, sometimes it's easier to tune it by ear, but sometimes it's not. When you want it. Okay, for now. Right, I'm going to just check the setting of the slots on here, just because I want them right. I want them right and I want them to feel good. I've forgotten what the strings was, so I better just dig up the packet for a second. Thank you, sir. We'll go with 52. It says we'll go with 11, so 13. Oh, pain in the butt. 13, first one, 13, 15, we'll go with 16, 17, we'll go with 17, find one, 13, 17, 26, 36, 36, 36, 36, 46, 42, 42, no, 46, come on, it must be. There is 46 and 52, which I haven't got here, but I can make up. And I'm short of a casing. No, I'm not. Right, I'm just going to check these for basic height, and I'll get me a. What's that bird? What's going on out there now? Who's got what? Right. One of these will be the 52. If I can remember which one it is. It's 40, so it's not that one. There's something out there squawking away. Is it the orange one? It could be the orange one. Yeah, orange one equals the 52 edge. Right. So I'm just going to drop off these, and I'm looking for my acoustic setup. I would typically look for a 0.4 of a millimetre. I found it really, this is lower than that to begin with, so this is already well in the zone, in fact lower. Yeah, well under. Interesting. Just going to re-spring this a minute. Pretty close actually. In fact, some of them are even less than I would go for, so I'm not going to worry about. I'm not going to make any adjustments, although there are differences between these. The G, for example, the G and the D are very low. They sort of set the standard really on this. But I'm not going to worry too much about them or adjusting them any further. Yeah, I'm not going to adjust them. They're below the levels I would normally go on an acoustic, so but they're still playing alright, so that's good enough for me. I'm going to stop there, ladies and gentlemen, for this version of the Baby Taylor. Like I say, years of playing have left it with a kind of layer on it that it feels a bit uncomfortable to handle, and it feels like it needs to be stripped back to get rid of that kind of shine and go back to the original matte finish. But of course years of stuff builds up on it to make it presumably sound as rich and kind of mellow as it does, but you also have to live with slight tackiness of how it feels after years in that environment. But anyway, there you go. That is the Taylor Baby done, ready to go. And not too much needed on this time. Just that little adjustment to the playing action, but a good example of how quickly you can make that adjustment, courtesy of the Taylor system. And I think when the time comes to, for example, do a refret on my own Baby, which is way off yet, but when the time comes, then I'll also reset the neck so that I get a chance to redo the saddle and start from scratch. Set the playing action, because the saddle on mine is a little low. I like the way it plays, but there's no further downward adjustment possible on the saddle, so it would need the neck reset to happen. But like I say, the Baby Taylor is really useful because it's easy to do, albeit you ideally would want a sloped or a wedged shim, which is very difficult to do. Right, okay, I'm just going to move on now, so I'll see you in a minute for the next guitar.